Welcome back to Learn with Chris. I'm Chris. Today we're going to continue with our verb tenses. In the last video, we talked about present tense verbs. Today we're going to look at past tense verbs. And this is in relation to the TOEIC reading test, where you will have a lot of questions on the reading test where you will need to understand the right verb tense to use. So today we're going to look at the 4 past tenses. In the next video, we will look at the future. So let's begin with the past simple tense. The past simple tense is used for actions that started and finished in the past. Remember that this is in contrast to the present perfect, because the present perfect is used for actions that started in the past but are not finished. So if you did it yesterday and it's finished, then past simple is the right tense to use. So how do we form it? We take the subject and we take the past simple verb, or verb to. So let's talk about that. Again, if you remember from school, you had these lists of irregular verbs. Go, went, gone. Eat, ate, eaten. Drink, drank, drunk. The second verb in the list. So ate, or drank, or flew. Fly, flew, flown. So that second verb is the verb you need for the past simple. Or verb ed. So what's the difference between a second verb or verb ed? Well, it depends on if the verb is a regular verb or an irregular verb. If it's on that list, go, went, gone, it's an irregular verb, and then you have to take the second verb. But if it's not on that list, then it's just a normal verb. And normal verbs, you add ed, like walked. Now, reminder, things to remember about past simple is these words: ago, last, and yesterday. If you see these words, we're talking past simple. So let's look at some examples. I ate spaghetti for dinner last night. So last means one ago, so that is past simple. Harry walked 5 kilometers to school this morning. Now, it's after morning right now, so this morning is the past. And walked, so we have the ed verb. And I was born 48 years ago, so ago is a key word for the past simple. As we mentioned in the last video, 80% of English expressions and talking is going to use either the present simple or the past simple. 80%. That is a lot. So if you really want to focus on only 2 tenses and then be very clear 80% of the time, then you want to focus on the present simple and the past simple. So that's the past simple. Okay, so let's look to the next one, the past continuous tense. The past continuous tense is used for 2 reasons: an ongoing action in the past, and when we set the background to a story. When we look at some examples, you'll see what I mean by that. We form the past continuous tense by taking the subject and was or were, which is the past tense of the verb to be, and the verb and ing. All continuous tenses have to have verb ing, all of them. So, for things to remember, it works like this. Past continuous when past simple. So let's give you an example. You could say, I was walking home. That's the past continuous. When, and here's where we have this, what we call interruption. The past continuous, it's interrupted by the past simple. So a continuing action, I was walking home when something happened. What happened? That's the past simple. So for example, I was walking home when a dog bit me. That would be a past simple. So past continuous, when, and past simple. But we can reverse it and have the past simple while past continuous. So we could go either way. So as an example of that, you could say, the dog bit me while I was walking home. So they mean the same thing. So let's look at some examples of the past continuous. Rebecca was studying in the library all day yesterday. Okay, that is an example of an ongoing action in the past. So if you're doing something all day or a long time, you would use past continuous. Rebecca was studying. That's past continuous. And then we have two examples here for the when and the while. I was walking home last night when I saw a ghost. So that's the past continuous, when, past simple. Or the phone rang while I was taking a shower. The phone rang, past simple, while I was taking, past continuous. So again, you could use either direction to talk about that. And that's the second part, setting the background to a story. So the story, of course, is I saw the ghost, or the phone rang, or the dog bit me. That's the important part of the story. But the past continuous sets the background to that story. I was walking home when something happened, or I was taking a shower when something happened. So that's when I say setting the background to a story, past continuous. Okay, let's move on to the past perfect. The past perfect is used for mostly two things. Two past events in sequence. That's why we often call past perfect double past, because there's two things that happened, one before the other one, so it's two things in sequence. And also cause and effect in the past also would use past perfect. So you'll understand what I mean when we look at some examples. The form of the past perfect is the subject plus had and the past participle, that third verb. Very, very similar to the present perfect, like I have been. Instead, it's I had been. So you're really only changing one word, have to had, because had, of course, is the past of have. So the form is very similar to the present perfect, which makes sense. Past perfect and present perfect are very similar, but at least in how they look, but the meaning is quite different. So for things to remember about the past perfect, it works similarly with the past continuous, is that there's a word before and after, similar to when and while. So for example, past perfect before past simple. So let's look at an example. I had eaten my dinner before my wife came home. Okay? So I had eaten my dinner is the past perfect. And then the other thing that happened is my wife came home. So these are two different events in time. One happened before the other one. Which one happened first? I had eaten my dinner happened first. So we're going to use the word before. If you wanted to reverse that, we would have past simple after past perfect. So my wife came home, past simple, after I had eaten my dinner. So past simple, after, past perfect. Okay? So quite similar to the while and the when for the past continuous and the past simple as well. So let's look at some examples for the past perfect. The movie had started before we arrived at the cinema. So two things happened in the past. The movie started and we arrived at the cinema. Which one happened first? The movie started, happened first. So we have to use the past perfect for the one that happened first. So the movie had started. Another example, George went to bed after his father came home. So George went to bed after. That means the father came home first and then George went to bed. If we wanted to reverse that, we would say his father came home. Wait. Yes, his father came home before George went to bed. We would reverse it that way. And the last example is related to cause and effect. He was tired because he had not slept well last night. So the being tired is the effect, and the reason why, the cause, is because he had not slept well. So that's the past perfect. One note, though, about both the past perfect and the next one, the past perfect continuous. These are rare tenses. They're not used very often. The situation is very specific where we have to use them. So once again, if these are hard and you don't really get them and you don't really understand them, not a big deal, because you're almost never going to use them in a real situation or in real life. Sure, you might need to know them for 1 or 2 questions on the TOEIC test, which is why we're talking about it. But in real life, very, very rare, especially the next one, the past perfect continuous. So the past perfect continuous is used for actions that were ongoing up to a point in the past, and then they were interrupted by a specific action or point that happened. So let's try to explain that. So you're doing something. I had been doing this action, long action, and then it's interrupted, very similar to the way the past continuous is interrupted by the past simple. Very similar. So let's say a person has been eating their lunch for an hour, and then something happened, right? So you would say she had been eating her lunch for an hour before something happened, right? So that's the ongoing action in the past up to a specific point in the past, and then something happens. So the form of the past perfect continuous is subject plus had plus been plus verb plus ing. So it's a combination of past perfect and past continuous. So some things to remember. We have these words for and since, same keywords as past perfect, but then we also have by the time. These words indicate past perfect continuous tense. So some examples. She had been working at the company for 5 years. So that's the ongoing action in the past before she got a promotion, right? So getting the promotion is the specific point in the past when something happened. So she had been working for 5 years. That's the ongoing action. And an example of by the time the meeting started, we had been waiting for an hour. That means we had been waiting for an hour before the meeting started. So that's an example of past perfect continuous. Remember, these are very rare. If you don't understand them, not a big deal, but this is how past perfect continuous works. Okay, so that's the 4 tenses: past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. In the next video, we will look at the 4 future tenses, and then in 2 videos, I'll prepare a bunch of examples where these will all be mixed together, and then we'll have to find the correct answer. So it's some practice for part 5 of the TOEIC test. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment to the video. I will see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye-bye.